Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Well, first tonight, Tasmania will soon be open to the entire nation. The state government has confirmed the final COVID wall with Victoria will come down on November 27. For more now, we're joined by reporter Sean McComish to discuss today's developments. Good evening, Sean. Now, the date had been set for December 1. What has changed?
Well, good evening, Kim. The answer looks to be pretty simple. 12 days without a new case in Victoria. The news has been warmly welcomed by Launceston Airport, which says Melbourne has historically been its busiest route. Virgin says it will also bring forward the reintroduction of its Melbourne flights. Today, the Premier acknowledged how close the two states are. Already emotions are running high as families prepare to see each other again. John Zito calls his daughter and granddaughter every night. At the end of this month, he'll finally be able to see them in person. The feeling is hard to describe.
Pretty emotional, actually. Been a pretty tough time.
The chocolatier hasn't seen his family in Melbourne since last Christmas. He's now filled with hope as the wall with Victoria looks set to come down on November 27.
It'll be lovely if we get the opportunity, to catch up with them before Christmas, if everything goes according to plan.
Months of pain and patience acknowledged by the Premier.
It's been very hard on many people, I understand, not being able to see them. Today, I want to recognise the efforts of all Victorians to bring their situation with COVID-19 under control. It is a truly outstanding effort.
12 days without a new case in the state and 28 days with only one unexplained case.
And so we think it's appropriate to look to open the borders to Victorians coming into Tasmania or in fact anyone coming from Victoria to Tasmania.
From Friday, travellers from Victoria will be allowed to home quarantine. More has also been revealed on the first of 3 international Mercy flights coming to Tasmania. It's expected to arrive around November 22.
At this stage, it appears that it will be an India flight with returning Australians and have around 120 people on board.
All will undergo testing before quarantining at Hobart's Best Western. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A suspect who held up a fish and chip shop at knife point yesterday afternoon remains on the run. The frightening daylight robbery left staff at the Riverside business on tenterhooks as police work to find the offender.
Strolling up to the counter at 4 in the afternoon, but it's not food this man is after, it's something much more sinister. Wielding a knife, he orders the worker at the Riverside fish and chip shop to open the till before fleeing with his own takeaway, around $300 according to the business.
Desperate. Yeah, for someone on a main road, and if you know the area, it's a dual lane highway both ways. 4 o'clock there's a lot of traffic.
Police believe the male suspect acted alone and seized his opportunity when customers left the store.
Would give you the thought that the person has waited until it's empty.
The doors of this fish and chip shop are back open today, but staff are still very shaken. This is the first time they've ever experienced anything like this.
Whilst there was no actual threat with the knife, the fact that it's produced and held in the hand is enough.
More than 24 hours on, the offender is still at large, but authorities are closing in. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
And police have charged a woman with fraud offences totalling $479,000. Officers allege the 35-year-old woman stole the amount over 4 years while she worked as an administrator at a Longford manufacturing business. She has been bailed to appear in the Launceston Magistrates Court early next year. And a man has been charged with arson following a house fire in Burnie at the weekend. A 24-year-old man who lives at the home is accused of setting fire to the Mount Street property in the early hours of Saturday morning. The house was destroyed, leaving a damage bill of around $300,000. Her message was powerful and personal. And today, after 2 decades, a Tasmanian survivor of sexual abuse has finally been able to tell her story. Katrina Munting experienced abuse as a student at Rose Bay High School and is now pursuing legal action against the perpetrator and education system.
Emotional, but emboldened.
Big breath, nice and slow.
For 20 years, Katrina Munting's voice had been silenced. Today, everyone listened.
I am no longer Pollard's victim, rather the survivor of the horrendous crimes he committed against me.
As a teenage student, Ms Munting was preyed upon by teacher Marcus Pollard in the late 90s. Only now, under recent changes to the law, can she reveal her name and her side of the story.
Both he and the school system failed me dismally.
And now Ms Munting plans to take them both to court.
I was blamed by the school for the criminal conduct, and they did not make the abuse stop.
She was flanked by the brave woman who made today's account possible, Grace Tame, whose Let Her Speak campaign ended the archaic law preventing sexual assault survivors like Miss Munting from speaking out using their own name.
Until this issue gets proper attention, the buck is going to keep stopping with children and innocent men and women, and that is not okay.
The growing group of known survivors standing together and standing for those who are yet to speak publicly as well.
I stand here for you too.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmanian News.
In a blow for the timber industry, Tar Ann's Hewen veneer mill will close. The plant, with only 7 workers on site, hasn't been operational since bushfires ripped through the area and damaged the mill in 2019.
This was the outcome that we expected, we just weren't sure when. But we're working with the remaining workers to find them alternative employment.
I understand that they're offering jobs in the northern operation for those workers that will lose their position here in the south. Yeah, look, it's a difficult time. At the end of the day, every job is important.
The company's veneer operations will be moved to its Smithton plant, and it says it remains committed to investing in that site should affordable long-term wood supply be finalised. A new plan to encourage more women into male-dominated fields will be rolled out in tomorrow's state budget. As the government prepares to build its way out of the coronavirus chaos, it hopes the funding will give the construction industry a much-needed boost.
It's not easy work, and when Melanie started out as a tradie around 4 years ago, she didn't imagine she'd be here today.
And I was planning to go into architecture, but thought I'd give an apprenticeship a try while I was still young and fit, and then I just didn't leave.
Now she's a sub-foreman, but women still only make up around 6% of the sector's workforce.
There's been a couple of girls during my time, but I think something we kind of see is they don't often hang around very long.
To level the playing field, $2.5 million will be allocated in tomorrow's state budget to help women into male-dominated industries.
It's about providing the mentoring, it's providing the support through those initial years, through the apprenticeships, to make sure that we can boost those completion rates.
Particularly as we see our $3.1 billion construction pipeline rolling out over the next few years, it's important that women have the opportunity to be able to participate in these industries.
The government also dedicating $1.2 million to the Closing the Gap initiative to build its relationship with Aboriginal communities. It comes as approval is finally granted for the return of sacred Premingana petroglyphs
to the country from which they were taken in the state's far northwest in my electorate of Braddon over 60 years ago.
And as the Premier puts the final touches on tomorrow's budget, there's no doubt it will be his most important yet.
Its bottom line will be in the red, and for a treasurer, obviously that's not what you'd like to see. Investment that we've made and the spending that we've engaged in has saved lives, and importantly, it's put our community back on track.
Next side, 7 Tasmanian News.
Despite limits on crowd numbers, hundreds have commemorated Remembrance Day services across the state, more than a century on from the landmark signing of the armistice. In a tough year for veterans, starved of Anzac Day recognition, today held extra significance.
A downsized and socially distant crowd respecting the modern COVID-19 battle before commemorating those in wars 102 years earlier.
It's one of the 3 most important days on the calendar.
This year's Remembrance Day in Launceston with added importance after Anzac Day events were cancelled, and with it one of the few chances for veterans to connect with comrades.
We know what the sacrifices were. We've been there, done that sort of business. And you don't talk about it, but you do talk about it with your mates.
There were some chaps I hadn't seen for 15, 20 years.
As the clock struck 11, all fell silent except for Ian Reeve. He's led the bugle call for close to 60 years.
I appreciate the fact that it is for a lot of people a significant part of their day.
In Hobart, hundreds gathered at the cenotaph.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
It remembers all those that have served in wartime and in peacetime.
Paying respects to the old and new guard.
Earlier this morning, I went to a recruitment ceremony and 3 new recruits swore in on Remembrance Day, which is a very special day.
RSL bosses say today's turnout amid the uncertainty of the pandemic proves the Anzac spirit is alive and well.
And with the young kids, it's going to stay alive and well.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmanian News.
A man has escaped serious injury after his boat caught fire at Launceston Seaport. The $70,000 vessel was destroyed. Investigators believe an electrical fault is to blame.
With smoke billowing into the air, it was a fiery scene at the seaport.
I was sitting over at Levy Food Company, just waiting for my meal, and Mum sitting in front of me. I'm looking behind it, and she's like, "Is that a barbecue?" And I turn around, and I'm like, "That's not a barbecue, Mum."
The smoke coming from a docked boat with the owner on board.
The owner of the boat has been recharging his batteries, and he's noticed firing behind him. So there's been looked like some sort of electrical fault.
Restaurant goers, not the only ones to be disturbed by the amount of smoke coming from the fire.
And we could even smell it at the station. So it was just the way the northerly wind was blowing. So we knew we had a bit of a fire going.
The freak incident causing more than $70,000 worth of damage to the now destroyed boat, as well as injuries to the owner.
With the smoke inhalation, so we've decided to send him off in the ambulance, and he's just getting checked out of the LGH.
It took crews just under an hour to contain the blaze, and now the cleanup begins. With the boat sinking into the North Esk River, that cleanup won't be easy. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmanian News.
For the first time, psychologists who support our emergency responders have received Tasmania Police's highest honour. 6 psychologists were recognised with Commissioners' Awards for their tireless work over many years, supporting those facing trauma in their line of duty. They're among more than 230 Tasmania Police staff receiving awards at ceremonies across the state. Also recognised, Commissioner Darren Hine and Inspector Glenn Ball for 40 years of service. Well, Tasmania's endangered red handfish population has been boosted, with 42 juveniles released back into the wild. The fish were hatched and raised from eggs in aquariums at IMAS, CSIRO and Seahorse World at Beauty Point. And this week, researchers undertook the risky task of releasing the fish, aiming to bring the species back from the edge of extinction.
We had to get the fish out of the tanks, packed away safely in cool chilli bins, then into cars and then off to boat ramps and then into vessels and then out of the vessel.
We think that there are fewer than 100 adults left in the wild at this point, so this research has been really quite important in increasing the number of individuals that are left in the population.
The handfish have been tagged and will now be closely monitored to track their progress. Whether you're crazy for ciabatta or silly for sourdough, there was a loaf of bread to appeal at the Tasmanian Baking Show. Judging categories of breads, pies, slices, cakes and other baked goods, organisers say Tasmania's servings rise to the challenge.
We've had bakeries that won the best pie competition in the country in previous years, so we compete on a level footing with any bakery in the mainland.
50 of the state's best loaves were judged on their appearance, taste and how well they met the traditional style.
Despite having bowled out New South Wales for just 64 in the first innings, Tasmania's found a way to lose. The Tigers lost 5 wickets for just 10 runs in a miserable final day of their Shield contest. Tasmania is still without a win after 4 matches. A minute's silence was observed to mark Remembrance Day. It would be a momentary break from New South Wales' relentless pressure.
Abbott to Siddle, who's nearly chopping onto the stumps.
Siddle wouldn't be so lucky, just shy of a half-century. Nick Larkin taking a beauty off Nathan Lyon. Matthew Wade would reach a snail's pace half-ton. Ben McDermott was on his way too, but with a little less patience.
And it's gone a long way into the train tracks.
But when Wade went on 59 and Jake Doran for just 4, things got really ugly. The Tigers tumbled in 7 bruising overs, 5 wickets falling. Jackson Bird's most concerning.
Wicket, and he's been bowled. Can you believe that? That is one of the strangest leaves you will ever see.
After throwing his bat in disgust yesterday when he was denied the chance to reach his ton, Mitch Stark had the final say, claiming Tim Payne to end the horror show.
And this game is over.
Much better news in the WBBL. Kiwi Rachel Priest had another blinder with the bat, hitting a game high of 42. The side posting 143 from its 20 overs. Despite Launceston's Courtney Webb producing some good work for the Renegades, the Hurricanes came out on top by 9 runs. And the men's Hurricane side has landed big-hitting South African Colin Ingram. The Bulldozer, as he's known, averaged 30 runs with the Adelaide Strikers over 25 games. He'll be here in time for the opening game against the Sydney Sixers. And 4-year-old mare Mystical Pursuit will tackle the Newmarket Handicap in a fortnight in her return to racing following surgery. Trainer Adam Trinder has told Tas Racing Mystical Pursuit has proven she's fully recovered from her wind problem from her impressive trial win at Longford yesterday. The mare may then contest the Weight for Age Tasmanian Stakes in Launceston next month.
Good evening, everyone. 32 degrees in Hobart today, Launceston 30, 22 in Devonport and Burnie reaching 20. Across the state, Ouse and Grove also reaching 32, 31 in Strawn, Flinders Island 25, 24 at Friendly Beaches and King Island reaching 22. High-level cloud can be seen thickening over the state today. And further out, a frontal band of cloud can be seen approaching Tasmania, wrapping into a low-pressure system to the west. The frontal system is also producing showers and thunderstorms over the southeast of the mainland. Tomorrow's chart shows the cold front clearing to the east of Tasmania and Victoria. A trough cuts through the north and east of the country, with a ridge extending over Western Australia and South Australia. Northeast to northwesterly winds tomorrow, 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots about the east and the west. And there is a gale wind warning current from southeast Cape to Sandy Cape for northwesterly winds. A strong wind warning is current from the northern tip of Flinders Island to St Helens Point and from Wineglass Bay to Tasman Island. And this warning is also current for the southwest lakes. Morning showers and 26 in Hobart tomorrow, 26 in Cygnet, New Norfolk 27. Showers clearing and 22 in Launceston, Devonport reaching 19, 22 in Campbelltown. 19 in Burnie tomorrow, 21 and showers in Strawn, Smithton 19. And St Helens a top of 24, showers clearing and 25 in Swansea and 24 in Fingal. The UV tomorrow is very high 8s across the state. Looking on to Friday now, showers about the north, west and far south. Showers about the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands on Saturday. And on Sunday, showers developing from the northwest in the morning. 22 in Perth tomorrow, Adelaide reaching 20, possible showers in Melbourne and Sydney and 28 in Brisbane. And currently Hobart partly cloudy and 29, still 22 degrees in Launceston and mostly cloudy, and showers and 16 in Devonport. And Kim, it was another hot one today.
Sure was. Look like those showers are on their way and certainly hit the northwest. Thank you very much, Chelsea. That's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.